Okay, guys, how you guys doing? You're good. Okay, we're going to start today. I cannot wait for your friends because I have a lot of things to cover. Me waiting for them, that's me, I won't finish. Yeah, today we are going to cover some portion, the introduction of the classes. Hopefully you guys went through the materials. This is the unit objective that you guys should be able to accomplish. And this is kind of the introduction of the unit. I was just gonna speak about the third one where we say support, C++ support object-oriented style of programming, which allow you to divide complex problem into small sets by creating an object. And then we say object is simply a collection of data and function data that acts on those data. Simply what it means, I remember you guys are in software, you did software engineering. No, you did it, right? You remember where we were talking, you guys cover some few places where we cover some classes in software engineering. So this is the point, this is where now we reach the point of that now in programming. So those knowledge that you guys inquire from that subject is now required here. So starting, what is a class? A class is just a blueprint for the object, or a class is a set of objects. An object is an incarnation of requirements, traits, and qualities assigned to a specific classes. What I mean, remember when you were dealing with your, let me give you this kind of example. In this kind of example here, I'm dealing with 3 different classes, right? You remember in software, how do you call it? There's a way that we call this kind of classes. Inheritance, right? You deal with inheritance. And then when you are modeling it, you are dealing with generalization, right? So in these kind of classes, you'll be dealing like, we have a class, a main class that is called user. And then under the user, you are dealing with some classes. And then you may have many of them, right? This is what is covering here. Inheritance, I'm not really going to go deep on this one because in software engineering, guys, you cover it. You know what I mean by inheritance, what is going to happen. So that means the subclass going to inherit some attribute from the parent class or superclass. This is what is going to happen there. This is kind of the guideline, if I may say so, about the class that you guys should always have it in your mind when you're dealing with classes. So, the first one, a class name must always start with an uppercase letters, right? Uppercase letters. If a class name is made of more than one word, then the first letter of each word must be an uppercase. Those are rules that you guys should have it in your minds. You should keep it in your daily basis of life. Right? The second rule say class contains data members, a member function, and the access of data member and variable depend on the access specifiers. We'll discuss it along the way. Right? And then say classes members, member function can be defined inside the class definition or outside of the class definition. This one also, we cover it along the way. Those are just the rules that you guys should have in your mind when you're dealing with classes, especially in programming. And then we have also class in C++ are similar to structure in C. The only difference being class defaults to private access control, whereas structure defaults to public. you guys know about the structures, right? Because you remember, you see, when we're dealing with structures, we're having something like this. This is how our table was looking like. Let me just give an example. This is the student. And then this one, I'll be having student number. And let me just say surname. Right? You remember, this is how you create your structures. And then those one was the element of your structures. So this way are similar to the structure in C, right? Because even when we come to the classes, you're still going to have those same things. Your table is still going to look the same. Right? And then those class objects that you are going to put inside of the class, because you're still going to have some attribute of the class inside. I think I mentioned it somewhere here. Resolve inheritance, a capital structure, objects, class or separate copies of data we can create. And class to do post, I think it's the next slide. So you'll be having this. This is your class called students, and having those attributes inside. This is what we cover in the structures, right? And then objects. Each object has different data variable. Objects are initially using what they mean here. Remember, in your structures, you can have different data variable or data type inside of one structures. The same apply with classes, right? And then here they say, what does the object have? The object programming convention assume that every existing object may be equipped with 3 groups of attributes. Like I said to you, like we cover in the structure as well, right? Attributes, they say object has a name that uniquely identify it within its home or namespace. The object has a set of individual properties that make it original, unique, or outstanding. An object has a set of ability to perform a specific activity that can change the object itself or some of the other objects. Remember, for those who did software engineering too, or some of you if you did database, so you remember they said to you the attribute is a unique identifier of an entity, something like this, if I'm not mistaken, right? You need to be unique. You cannot have in the same class or in the same entity 2 attributes with the same name. You remember that? You remember? No. You don't remember. I think it's covered in your software engineering 2 classes. You remember whereby they said to you, that's why we come with the idea, even when you're doing generalization, when you say inheritance, you're just trying to avoid those attributes that are similar. That's why you're sending it to the parents, right? Those are that are uniquely identifying those subclass, it's going to remain on your subclass. You remember, right? So if there's any question, you can go to Mike and then ask him regarding that. And then we are going to talk about access control in the class. Because remember, your class, you still have to access your class. Still the same way as we dealt with function, whereby everything is not written in your main code, main function. It's written outside of your main function, right? So now you need to access it from the main function and then try to get the information that you want from that class to access, right? So this is what we are going to cover here. Because in the class we have 3 types of declaration that we deal with. The one is the public, the private, and the protected, right? We call it normally access specifiers in the classes. I think in software you guys cover it. You went up to the domain classes and so on. Mike talked about it, public, private, and protected. You guys went through it. So we refer to software engineering two classes. What does it mean? Okay, I'll try to explain to you along the way. I think I have a portion of it where I'm trying to say, how are you going, if you are having a public, what does it mean? What is the effect that you are going to have in your code? If you are having a protected, how does it going to affect your classes and your code, how to access? It said these access specifiers are used to set a boundary for availability of member of class B in the data member of member function. Those are the importance of it. What does it do? This is access specifier public, right? Public means all the class members declared under the public will be available to everyone, right? The data member and the member function declared public can be accessed by other classes too. There are chances that they might change them. So the key member must not be declared public. Those are just rules that you need to remember. This is a public access specifier that they declare here on top, right? And then this is your data member declaration. And then this is your member function declaration inside of the class, right? You understand when they say public, right? When you declare public, it's going to mean that the class member is available for everyone, right? Anyone can access it. Now, when you are dealing with access specifier private, it means that no one can access the class member declared private outside of that class. Right? Did you guys get it? And then say if someone tried to access it outside of that class, it's going to get a compiler time error because it's going to take time. You cannot access. It's protected. Right? And then protected specifier access is the last access specifier, and it's similar to the private, right? It makes class member inaccessible outside the class, but they can be accessed by any subclass of that class. Did you guys get the difference of them? No. In a protected, this is a kind of example. If a class A is inherited by class B, then class B is subclass of class A. We'll learn what does it mean. In a protected, you'll be dealing with something like this. Let me borrow blue, black, red. Let me use it there. I'm having something like this. This one is a user. Let's say this one is the staff. This one is the student. Right? Right? If I declare some attributes here protected, that means I can have, those two can have access of it. Right? But if I declare it as private, they cannot. Right? How to define a class. This is kind of a formula, if I may say so. Don't always forget the semicolon. To define your class, you need always to have a keyword called class before, and then you need to enter your class name. It's not really different with how we define the structures. Right? And then the body of the class is defined inside of the curly brackets, and terminated by a semicolon at the ends. So this is kind of the formula. This one, we didn't, still the same, but they only say, in this one, they say you need to have an access specifier. Just to give you guys an idea, because I know sometimes when we give you formulas, we are like, no, you didn't say that we should have an access specifier here, right? So that shall give you both of them. This is an example of a class declared as a private. In this class here, this class has two data members. Data 1, those are the members inside of the class. And then data 2 is this one here, right? Remember I told you the class you can have different data objects or data variable or data type, right? You remember, right? Function 1 here, what is the name of it? Do you know how do you call it? It's the member function of the class normally, right? Remember, we are having some data or data member function, and access specifier, right? Those are the elements of the class. Now we are still going to explain to you more detail about it as we are moving along, right? Yes?
I'm confused now. There is the data members,
Yeah.
private access specifier. So now you declare them on the public.
Yeah.
So it's going to be used in other subclasses. Those data one.
That's me. Here I can only call it, but I cannot change everything that is happening here. Yeah. Let me see if I have an example of the class, a simple one first, for us to understand it, and then we move on to. Okay. This is just an example of the class. That are created, right? In my class here that I create, I have my access specifier that's here, declare them as a public, right? And those one are okay. And then here, from here, in this one, I just remember in the structure we're dealing with when you enter, you need to specify which one to enter with. Sometimes if it's colon 1, I told you we only enter using colons because your value is loaded in the form of column and rows, right? Lost. Right? So, I just, student 1, declare it as A, instead of me writing again students dots if I want to access that table, right? That's table in that row, right? I declare as A, and then students I declare it also as a B. Those are just columns where things are stored, right? In column A, I declare roll number equal to 1, right? This one here, this attribute here, right? And then the name in that column should be Adam, right? Do you guys get it, right? From here, what is happening is like And then declare again on column B, roll number equal to 2. Right? And then the name of the students will be Bella. Right? If I compile this, what am I expecting? You say the roll number, you say we are going to display roll numbers and then the name of it. Because the first thing need to display should be the name of the student. And then we need to display the roll number. Because in this one, we're accessing the value that is on the first column. Right? Is it okay? You remember still the same, the way we were accessing value in the structures? You remember? Are you lost? Remember I told you from array, all those things are building now on top of each other. So if I try to run it, compile it, this is what is going to happen. See what is giving us as the answer. Is it correct, right? Did you guys get it now? Cool. Yes, a stack. A stack is a structure developed to store data in a very specific way. Right? Remember, it kind of in the stack, what we are talking more about is, you remember even your database, how it's work like, right? Because the main purpose, in the end of every subject that you are dealing with in programming, you need to be able to store variable, to get it out from the class, and then use it, and then take it back, right? So if you go to your material, you'll see they give you a picture of quantities, a bunch of them, because values are loaded on top of each other's, right? It's like if you store the first one on the first row, it's like, this is my table. This is my table. If I store the first variable here, the second one should come here. Right? Because the only way I can store again variable here, that means I need to erase those ones that are stored here. Right? So this is what we kind of cover in the stack. That's why you see you have an example where we are talking about the pop and the push. Pop and the push. And then those who are dealing with digital system 3, you understand, they will tell you pop, what is a push in assembly language. I think digital system 2 or 3. One of them should cover it. 3. Yeah. They will cover for you what is the pop. When you use the pop, what are you expecting? When you use a push, what are you expecting as a result? Because normally the push is like you are pushing value, if I'm not wrong. Pushing value into the register. Or shifting value from the register, if I'm not wrong. Correct me. It hasn't been a while that I did digital system 3. This is what I try to explain to you using that table, right? Like a new element is placed on top, right? On the pop, when existing element is taken away from the top, right? Kind of like how the register store data and then how you can manipulate those data inside, right? Now we come accessing the data member of a class. Like the example I just showed you now from NetBeans. Do you guys see? That's why we say accessing a data member depends on solely on the access control of that data member. If it is a public, then the data member can be accessed using a direct member access, a dot, right? Operated with objects of that class, right? You remember the example that we did? Yeah, right? Yeah. It's still the same with the one that we did with the structure. That is the way also we have been accessing value from the structures, right? And then we say again, if the data member is defined as a private or protected, then we cannot access the data variable directly. That means you cannot use the dot, right? Then we have to create a special public member function to access it. Use or initialize the private and protect data member. These member functions are also called accessor and mutator method or getter or setter function. What we mean is an example. This is an example that you can access it. Your access specifier is declared as a public. This is what we tried, right? And then this one, how to access a private. Because I told you on that one, you cannot access it if it's declared as a private, right? So we need to find, for you to access it, you need to declare a getter method or a setter method in order to help you to access the values, right? To access, use in a private data member, you need to create a getter or setter function to get and set the value of that data members. This is an example. Like here, let me run it on, I think I do have an example on NetBeans so that you guys can understand it easily. What I will do, let me first remove this comment here, and then comment this one down here, so that you guys may understand what is happening. Okay, I have my class here called students, right? Still the same example. Now I change now my access specifier to a private, right? The only thing that I change is that one. And then I add now my getter parameters, right? I can even comment those lines and then see if you can, it's going to give us an error, right? Let me try to comment it and then I'm going to add it later. Just for understanding purpose. Right? So that means I'm still having the same example, right? I just changed my access specified to a private, right? Remember, I told you that you cannot access it using a dot in this way. If you try to access it, the compiler is going to complain, right? Let's try it if it's true or false. What does the compiler is telling us? See, Cannot find it, but it's there. Right? Because why? Because I declare it as a private. Right? So in order for me to access it, what I need to do, I need to create a getter method or a setter method that should help me to access. Right? So that means for me to access, if I try to run it, even though I create those methods here, if I still try to access it using this one here, it's going to complain. You guys should be aware of that. Because for me to access that variable, I need to access it through this one here, those member functions that I created. Did you guys get it? Because it is through this member function that I'm going to access this guy. Right? Let me comment this guy. Right? Like here, I'm getting the value of roll number, right? If I say set, that means I need to set the value of roll number, right? That's why we say a getter and the set method. Normally the get is used for you to retrieve the value that is stored, right? To set, like the word say, is for you to set the value. Right? You guys should be familiar with that. Don't make confusion. Instead of you write a get, but you write the instruction that you write inside is for the set or get. So you should not be aware of that. Like now, if we try to run it, let's see what are we going to have. Saying the value is 1. Why? Because if you check here, I set the value of row number to 1, right? Because here I call that function set row number to 1, right? And then from here, now I'm getting the value that is stored inside of that roll number, right? Accessing protected data member. Protected data member can be accessed directly using a dot operator inside of the subclass of the current class. For non-subclass, we will have to follow the steps same as the access private data members. Right? Member function in class. Right? Member function are functions which have the declaration inside the class definition and work on the data member of the class. Right? The definition of the member function can be inside or outside the definition of the class. If a member function is defined inside the class definition, it can be defined directly, but it is defined outside of the class, then we have to use the scope resolution. Right? Operator along with the class name, along with the function name. This is the example, second of the formula. This is the member function declare, get volume, right? With no arguments to return, right? I think I do have an example for you. like in this side here, I have my function, member function that is here. If I call up to this function, it needs to return to me the size, return the volume of the cube. That means you need to do the calculation and then send it to me as a result, right? Let me check. I think I do have an example for you. Let's real quick when my day. Yeah. Okay. This is the first case when your member function is declared inside of a class, right? This is the first case. And then what I'm sitting here, what is happening here is simply I create a class, create my member function, and then once I call this member function here, it needs to return to me, it needs to do the calculation for me, and then give it back to me, right? The reason why I can set the value of the site to 4 because it's declared as a public. You guys should always remember that, right? If I change it to private, that means even this line here needs to change. Should be aware of that, should keep it in mind, right? So from here, I set the size of my cube to 4, right? After setting it to 4, and then I need to print out the volume. That means I'm calling out this class, the class name, that is this, and then I need to call this function that is created inside, right? Because I'll need this function here, because I need him to do the calculation for me, right? If I run this, it needs to give me the volume of the cube. Right? Is it okay? So let's do now the second option. I think I do have it here. Yeah, yes I do. Let me comment this one. I'm not going to change anything on my main function. Just going to change it here. Right. This one, my member function is defined outside of the class. Remember, we say you need to have a scope resolution. Right? In this case, it's defined outside of the class. If I run it, I'm still going to have the same results. The only thing is like, instead of me declaring this member function inside of this class, I took it out. Right? And then you see that I'm not going to change anything on my main code. Still the same. That is the same thing that I wrote there. Right? If I run it, I should expect 64 as an answer. Nothing else. Right? This is what we're talking about, declaring it inside or outside. You guys should know how to deal with it. This is the example that we just did now. You said?
What if a class, class function was awfully following that
That means going to give you an error. Remember by now, I told you guys.
I know, but just as it must be always in the data.
Yeah, because what you did there, let me go back to it. What is happening here, you kind of declare this function here. You remember when we were dealing with function, calling a function, you need to before calling it, you need to declare what is happening. You remember? So, if you declare this one with a different, that means it's going to affect everything that is happening here. Otherwise, the compiler is going to complain and say, I don't know what are you talking about here. Right? Object initialization constructors. Constructors are special classes functions which perform initialization of every object. The compiler calls the constructor whenever the object is created. Constructor initializes value to an object member after storage is located to the object. This is what we call a constructor. This is an example of the constructors. What we mean in this example here, what is happening is simple. Here, I create my class here. Here, I create my constructor, right? Right? From here, I'll put what I want to be inside of the constructor. This is kind of the formula to place a constructor inside, right? From here, I'm calling now what is here inside of the constructor, right? Because when the object of that class, this class here is created, right? A temporary class is created. The constructor is called automatically, right? This is what is going to happen. And then initialize to 5xs, this one here, right? It's going to initialize x to 5, right? And then y and y to 5.5. Those are the initialized value that's placed here, right? This is what is going to happen. And then where am I? We have three different types of constructors in programming. We have a default constructors, we have a parameterized constructors, and then a copy constructors. Those are the three different types that we have in programming. Right? This is the default constructors. This is kind of a formula, how to declare it. You have a class name, and then you have your constructor here. Right? This is an example of the code. What is happening here? I have my class which is here. I have my class object. And then this one is my access specifiers. And then I have my constructors, this one here. Right? The default constructor. Right? And then from here, I'm printing out the site, this one that is here. It's going to give me 10. Is it okay? A default constructor is so important for initialization of the object member that even if we do not define a constructor explicitly, the compiler will provide a default constructor implicitly. Right? So, still the same. Like in this case, I didn't specify the default constructors. Right? A parameterized constructors. These are the constructors with parameters. What we mean, remember, even the function, we're dealing with function That says parameters. You remember, right? Still the same with constructors. You may have a constructors without the parameters, and then you may have it also with the parameters, right? If I'm using this constructor, you can provide different values to a data member of different objects by passing the appropriate value as an argument. This one operates the same way with the function with parameters. A copy constructor. These are the special type of constructor which take an object as an argument and is used to copy values of data members of one object into the other object. We'll study the copy constructor in detail later. I think tomorrow, depending on you guys, we may do some example. I think in the classes we need to do more example as well for you to understand it better. Depend on you in your attendance as well. Your classes is tomorrow. Constructor overloading, just like other member function. We remember what was happening with the function when we say function overloading. You remember. See the same rules. Constructor can also be overloaded. In fact, when you have both defaults and parameters constructor defined in your class, you are having overloaded constructors. One with no parameters and the other one with parameters. Right? This is an example of a constructor, one of the constructors declare, right? Which one are we using here? Is it a parameters one, right? Are we sure? Is the parameters and copy. Sorry guys, I have to fly because I still don't have many minutes remain, so I have to finish with my slide today. Destructor is a special class function which destroys the object as soon as the scope of the object ends. The destructor is called automatically by the compiler when the object goes out of the scope. A syntax for the destruction is the same as that for the constructor. The class name is used for the name of the destructor with a tilde sign as a prefix. This is a destructor. This sign here that they meant. Right? I think we will do an example tomorrow. Tomorrow I think we need to do some few examples on classes, on everything that we cover about classes. I'm just going to give you guys an overview of everything, what is it and what does it do and so on. Then tomorrow we go to example to save time. Although keywords, I'm not really going to spend my time on this. This one is the self-study. Because it's just one of the functions that you guys can add on top before your int value, auto or non-auto value and so on. Right? This one, for you to understand it better, you need an example. Static member of a class. We can define class member statically using a static keyword. When we declare a member of a class as a static, it means no matter how many objects of the class are created, there's only one copy of the static member. Did you guys get it? No. What did you first understand by static when we made static? Do you guys have an idea? Fixed number. Anyone else we can try? We can add on top. No idea. Hmm? Because for you to understand better the static and the non-static, I think we need to do example as well. I have also enough time now. It's 5:2. Yeah. Okay. We'll cover the static tomorrow and then do more examples tomorrow as well. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your presence.